everyone, welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're going to be going over the highly requested, super famous pattern in our shop. Today, we're going over the Babi Boxy bag. Now, as the name implies, my mother, also known as Babi, which is short for Babishka, which is grandmother in Czech. That's why we all call her Babi. She's a grandma. My mother, Babi, came up with this pattern. She was just kind of playing around one day trying to figure out another way to work with clear vinyl because we have so much of it. And she came up with this boxed pattern. You see, it's like a tall boxed bag. It is so quick, so easy, so great if you have clear vinyl. Now, this actually is clear vinyl. You've seen me work with this before on the channel. This is like a jelly clear vinyl. So it is see-through-ish. It's not totally transparent, but you see, you can still see through it, kind of. So this bag is one of our shop's best sellers. It's a great bag to have in your craft room. It's a great bag to travel with. It's great for kids, great for teachers, great for everything. And it's very quick and easy. So as we go into the holiday season, again, you guys, I mean, you're going to get sick of me saying it as we go into the holiday season. But at this time of year, everything I do, it's like got a gift idea in mind, right? So this is one of those things, again, you fill it with some treats, you fill it with a gift card, you fill it, just with some pretty tissue paper and things like that, and then you give this as a gift to somebody. It didn't take much time, it didn't require a whole lot of stuff, especially if you're somebody who has been accumulating a lot of clear vinyl. It's quick, it's easy, and it's going to be loved. Like the actual container for the other gifts is going to be loved just as much as the gifts inside. So if you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shoutouts, anything at all, leave them down in the comments section. I'll have timestamps. This is going to be a quick one, guys. This comes together so fast. So fast. You should time yourself when you make it. It's so fast. And then you're going to make, about 12 more. But I will have timestamps just for like little bits of construction. If there's just one spot you're getting hung up on, this does not have any sort of lining. It does not have any sort of quilt cotton. You could use some waterproof canvas or quilt cotton for the binding over the zipper. It's a very quick, fun bag. Fun bag. You guys are going to love this one. All right, guys, let's get started. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot to this pattern. Once again, I will be using the clear jelly vinyl. This is pretty much because this is what I have. My mom has all the clear vinyl. If you have just regular clear vinyl, this is great for that. If you have clear vinyl that has prints on it, this is also great. You could use regular vinyl too that has a backing if you'd like. You just got to make sure you're okay with whatever's on the back of that vinyl because again, we're not doing any sort of a lining pocket here. So for the front of the bag, we have two pieces. The zipper will go in between them. The top is measured at 8.5 inches by 3 inches. The bottom is measured at 8.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And then the back panel is measured at 8.5 inches by 10.25 inch. And then we have two cuts of binding. I'll be using vinyl, so I can cut them at 1/2 inch by 9 inches. If you're using some sort of raw edge material that needs to be double folded, just remember that you're going to have to make it 1 inch thick. Each of these will need to be 1 inch thick, and then you're going to fold it back and then use that as your binding. I have a little pull tab just to help make it easier to open and close the zipper. This is 1/2 inch by 2 inches. I have my bag tag as always, and then I have a 10.5 inch long zipper. I'm using a number 5 zipper, but any size zipper is going to be fine for this. So here's all the other stuff. A good pair of scissors for when we're boxing the corners specifically. Double-sided tape is going to be really helpful for this. I do recommend a wash away, easy to sew over double-sided tape. Nothing too sticky because we're going to be layering it. A 1 inch by 6 inch ruler is always helpful. Since I have like a holiday theme going on today, I've got some holiday variegated thread. This is Tex 35 weight. This is going to go through the needle on the top. In the bobbin, I have Gutermann thread just from Joann's. My needle today is a Microtex 8012. I have a couple marking tools. You're going to need them. So I have a vinyl marking tool and just like an air erasing pen, and then a stiletto as always. So let's dive in with the front panel. You're going to need your zipper, your top, and your bottom front panels, and then we'll add the tag after we get the zipper installed. So lay your zipper right side up, and when the zipper pull is going to the left, it should be closing. So see, as it goes to the left, it closes. As it goes to the right, it opens. We want it to close to the left. Grab your double-sided tape. Let's start with the bottom edge here, and we're just going to take our double-sided tape and lay it right along the raw edge of our zipper tape. Just like that. All the way to the edge, not close to the zipper teeth, right along the edge. And then you can remove the paper. And now you're going to take your bottom panel and you're going to center it on your zipper tape. And here's the thing, the top edge of this vinyl should match up with the top edge of the tape. We don't want it to get any closer to the teeth than that top edge of tape. That's it. So just carefully line this up and lay it over your tape. So now let's baste down the vinyl to the zipper tape at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, once you have that basted on, grab your tape, and we're gonna add the tape to the other side of the zipper tape now, again, right along that very edge. And then remove the paper from the tape. And now, once you lay down the top vinyl piece, you don't want the raw edge to overextend the tape. Just like on the bottom, we wanna line it up with the very edge of the tape, but you also wanna center it with your bottom piece. So it might be easier if you have grid marks on your cutting mat here to kind of line this up with those grid marks. And that way, when you're putting this down, you know, it's like, okay, here's my grid mark here. I'm just gonna line this up on that side and then line it up with my tape. So now let's baste this one down as well at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now you're gonna grab your binding pieces and we're gonna add those. So let's move this zipper out of the way. I always lose my zipper on these. And we're gonna take our double-sided tape and we're going to just cover the edge of that bottom vinyl piece, just like that. So my double-sided tape is just going right over the very edge of this bottom piece. Remove the paper. Take one of your binding pieces and just center it on here. Now you can decide how close to the zipper teeth you want this to go. So if you want it a little bit further down so you can see the zipper tape more, you can make it further down. You can make it higher so it's very close to the teeth, totally up to you. For me, I like it a little bit higher. There we go. And I'm gonna repeat this on the top. So once again, I'm gonna grab my double-sided tape and I'm just going to cover the raw edge of my clear vinyl over the edge, just like that. And then I'll remove the paper. And then I'm gonna take my binding and lay it over my tape. So the point of the binding is to cover up the raw edge of this vinyl because it's not the prettiest look, you know, that raw edge of vinyl and then the stitching on top of it. It doesn't look great. So the binding is just a pretty decorative way to cover that up. So now what we wanna do is take this to the machine and top stitch on both long edges of each piece of binding at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So once you have this done, you can see I went ahead and top stitched over my zipper tape just to make sure my zipper pull doesn't go flying off the edge either way. Because now what I'm gonna do is trim down the excess of the zipper and the binding, just like that. I'm gonna do this on both sides. And since we're working with zipper tape can unravel. You can see it's already kind of doing that right here. I don't know if you can see that. We don't want it to unravel when we're using the bag. So to prevent that, what you're gonna do is just grab a lighter and you're going to melt down the edge of this zipper tape on both sides. And what that's gonna do is just melt all of those little plastic threads that weave around to make that zipper tape, and they just melt in on themselves and seal it. So it's perfect now. Now we should not have to worry at all about this unraveling in any way. All right, next let's put our bag tag on. So what I'm gonna do is actually just fold this in half, getting the long edges together. And I'm just gonna kind of pinch right here. And any type of clear vinyl you're using, you'll probably be able to see that little pinch for just a few moments. So I'm gonna grab some tape and put it on the back of my tag. And then I'm just gonna use my eyeballs to center this right below the binding. There we go. And now I'm gonna top stitch my tag in place at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So you can see I left the tails on the top and the tails from the bobbin really long. Because we don't have a lining, this stitching is seen on the inside of the bag. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to clean it up a little bit. I'm gonna flip this to the back and I'm gonna pull on my bobbin thread until I see a little loop of the top thread. And then I'm just gonna pull the top thread to the back of the bag. So I did it for both top threads. So I have 4 pieces of thread now. And I'm just gonna split them up and triple knot them together. And then cut down the thread. And just to get it really nice and clean, you can kind of pull the material back and you have like these little pigtails. If you're careful, you can just gently melt them. Don't get too close with your lighter or else you'll melt the thread around it and then it's kind of like, what was the point in tying it, you know? But there we go, that looks adorable. So the next prep step is putting on this little tab. I'm just gonna fold it in half like that. I'm gonna have the folded edge going in towards the center of the bag. and the raw edges going along the raw edge over here. And I like to put it on the left, just above the binding. You guys, I forgot to mention clips in the beginning of the video. Clips are always helpful. So here we go. So you can see you can just line it up right at the top of the binding or put it a little bit above it. Put it wherever you want. But I'm just going to base this down real quick at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, here we go. Just about done. So we have our front panel all prepped. We have our back panel. We don't have anything on here. If you want to add something, go for it. You could put a patch on this. This would be really cool. This would be a great bag for a patch. It could be a great bag for embroidery. Heat transfer vinyl, or maybe not heat transfer vinyl, actually, not on the vinyl, but maybe like just regular sticky vinyl. If you have a Cricut, you could stick it to this. It'd probably last forever. But we're going to take our front panel and make sure your zipper is about halfway unzipped. Then take your back panel. And I don't think there's a right or wrong side to this, but we're going to lay them right sides together. They should line up pretty perfectly. If they don't, make sure they line up on the top and the sides and let the bottom be the piece that's not lined up great. But now we're just going to clip these together along all 4 edges. So I don't know if you can see here on the bottom, but my front panel is about 1/8 of an inch longer than the back panel. Again, that's just going to have to do with how you lined it up on the zipper, which is totally fine. But what I want to do is look at the shorter edge. So if your front panel is a little bit shorter than the back panel, whichever one is shorter, that's the way you want it to be up, so you can see that when we're sewing. Because now we're going to sew along all 4 edges at a 3/8 inch or a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Personally, I like a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I think my mom does a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Either one of those will work. And we're going to go around all 4 edges, making sure we sew this. And when I do my 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm lining that up with the shorter edge here on the bottom. There we go, all sewn together. Now we're gonna box these edges, and how much you box these edges is going to completely decide on the shape of this bag. I'm gonna show you what we're doing, but if you have a lot of extra vinyl that you just really wanna play with, I highly encourage you to play around with the measurements of this. I think you could come up with some pretty interesting shape, especially if you box the top at a different size than the bottom. I feel like you could really get creative with this. So if you have the time and the material, give it a shot, but this is what we're doing today. We're gonna do 1-inch squares, but we're lining it up with the thread, not with the edge of the material, okay? So I'm lining up my 1-inch box here on my ruler with my stitches, and then I'm just going to use any sort of marking tool that's not a Sharpie. Please don't use Sharpies. Please don't use Sharpies. And I'm just creating this little box. So it's not 1 inch from the edge of the material, it's 1 inch from the stitching. So I'm gonna do this for all 4 corners. So once I have that marked, I'm gonna grab my scissors and I'm going to gently cut along those marks. Try not to cut past them on this inner corner because you do want it to meet up. So just carefully, just clip right into there. We're gonna do this for all 4 corners. Once you have those trimmed, you might find it easier to kind of open up the zipper a little bit so you can get your hand in there. And we're gonna box these. So by boxing them, what we do is we're going to push open this box corner, bringing the seams on the side and on the top, right sides together, and then flipping them in opposite directions. And then these corners here that we cut, those become the edges. They become the corners of the box. And so if you find yourself getting like a mountain peak here, what you wanna do is pull apart the material further down. Don't just focus right here. Pull it apart further down. Do your best to get it as flat as possible. If the vinyl is really fighting you, grab yourself a hairdryer, heat it up a little bit, and then do this. Because some clear vinyl is so stubborn. So I'm gonna clip at the seam, and then I clip further down along the edges as well. I'm gonna do this for all 4 corners. When you flip the next seam, you see how on the top here, the part I clipped, the seam on the top is flipped towards the right. I want to make sure it continues being flipped towards the right on the other top edge. That is important. If you flip them in opposite directions, you're going to end up with a bit of a wavy top or a wavy bottom. So there we go, I've got the top. And if at any point you're fighting with this and you start noticing that the thread is unraveling where the seam is, don't make it harder on yourself. Just go to the sewing machine and just sew over the edges. Just go over here, backstitch, 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 right on the edges. You don't have to resew the whole thing, just right at those bits. So that way you can kind of pull on this and mess with it without having to worry about it coming undone. Alrighty, should kind of look like this, like a little monster. So now we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and I'm gonna sew along each boxed raw edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch really well at the beginning and the end. I do recommend you do a second row of stitching, so I'm gonna do 1 row of stitching at a 1/4 inch, then I'm gonna do another row of stitching just a little bit closer to the raw edge, just another row, because this clear vinyl, especially some other clear vinyl, is very thick and it will pull on these stitches. And while it might not break them, you could see them. So just to prevent that, 2 rows of stitching on each edge is the best idea. Alright, we've got all 4 of these done. I am going to I have a lot of little pigtails of threads on all of this because I stitched so many times. I'm going to clean those up. I mean, it's not that noticeable from inside the bag, but I like it to just look a little bit neater. Alright, now if you have a stiff vinyl, you're going to want to grab a hairdryer or some sort of a heat gun or something, and you're going to want to gently warm up this vinyl before you turn it out. You don't want to have any serious creases in it or anything like that. This jelly vinyl is actually pretty easy to turn out, so I'm just going to flip everything right side out through this hole in the zipper. Gently, don't yank on these edges here because you can still rip the stitches. Be gentle. Alright, so I'm just going to poke out these top corners and then poke out the bottom corners. Look at how stinking cute this is. And I picked red and green for the holidays. So to me, it's like a little holiday bag. How cute is that? And again, if I heat it up, I can get all these little wrinkles out and make it nice and smooth. Oh yeah, that looks so good. How fun is that? What do you guys think? It's so cute. It's so cheerful. They're both so cheerful. If you haven't gotten any of this like jelly vinyl, I highly encourage you to get some and play with this because this is so fun. And I'm sitting here, I'm trying to figure out, I feel like, especially with this jelly vinyl, we have kind of a blank canvas here. When we're thinking holidays and kids love to be involved in handmade goods, but we can't let them sew this, you know. So how could we get them involved with this? I feel like if you have some really cool like paint pens, they could decorate this with paint pens. You could have them work with, oh, I don't know. If you have any suggestions for types of like drawing utensils that would work great with this material, put them down in the comments section and I'll pin them to the top because I really feel like there is something we can do with this with the kiddos that's going to make it so good. Like a teacher gift, you know, again, and like have the kids draw a picture, write their name on it, but it needs to be with something that'll stay. Help me think of that. I appreciate it. But I hope you guys love playing with these. I hope you love making them. I love making them and I love keeping them. I'm probably going to keep these, honestly. They're so stinking cute. So I hope you love them. If you modify them, if you make them and you share them on social media, please make sure you tag me. I'm at OklaRoots. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I think that's it. I'm not so good with all the social medias, but I think that's it. So thank you so much to my mom, Babi, for letting me share this pattern. I know she was a little nervous about sharing it with you guys. Worried if you guys would like it or not. But after the response we got when we started selling these in the shop, first was, oh my gosh, I love that bag, I want it. Second was, can you please teach us how to make it? And I know a lot of you guys really wanted Babi to do the tutorial today. I do apologize. She has decided that she prefers being on the other side of the camera, which I completely respect. Don't worry, I will get her in some other videos as we go into the holiday season. But for this one here, yeah, if you love it, please leave a comment down below and let her know. I know she reads these comments all the time. She'd love to see your feedback. So I hope you guys are having a great day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys.